Few days ago, there were elections in Israel. I would like to tell you two things about the elections before I get into my talk, because the more you think about it, the more you analyze it, people tend to forget how bad, how brutal, how ugly is the situation in the state called Israel. You know, for the elections, politicians put a lot of money for their propaganda. So our Minister of Law, Ayelet Shaked, she's responsible on law and justice and all the important things in the state. Her main propaganda was a video that she made herself. Okay, she was filmed as a model and advertising a new fragrance. Okay, it's a minute video. It's nice to see it after when you have some time. You see your minister, the Minister of Justice, making a 1 minute video, and whispering through the video, fascism, advertising a new kind of fragrance, which is fascism. At the end of it, she says that from her point of view, this is democracy. Okay, this is the Minister of Justice, not a crazy, racist something in the society. This is the Minister of Justice advertising her propaganda for her audience. So she thinks in her mind, what she's holding in her mind, is that she wants to tell her audience, which became quite fascist, that if you are fascist, you should vote for her, for Ayelet Shaked, which is the Minister of Justice, of Law. Another very important thing that I remembered when Professor Masad was talking in the morning about this Herzliya Interdisciplinary Center, I used to call the Center for Developing Racism in Israel. In this conference that he was talking about, one of the speakers was nowadays Prime Minister Netanyahu. At that time, he was Minister of Finance, Minister of Economy. And the whole conference was about security and the Palestinian, and the Arab, of course, from the state point of view, they don't call us Palestinians. Okay, so now the whole thing that you were hearing from the morning, according to the Israeli narrative, it's a big lie. There is no Palestinians. So he was talking about security and the situation he sees it. At that time, we were talking about a minister in the Israeli government, in Sharon's government, and he was saying that there is no big strategic threat on the Jewish state from the Palestinians in the West Bank and Gaza. The big strategic threat for the Jewish state are the Arabs who are living inside Israel. Okay, the 20%, from his point of view, are the biggest strategic threat for the Jewish state, which means that not a marginal minority of racists, not some anti-Semites or neo-Nazis or something. We are having the Prime Minister of Israel thinking of us as the biggest strategic threat for the Jewish state, which means that the most influential man now in the Israeli politics that has been governing, seems to be is going to be the eternal Prime Minister, is dealing with 20% of the population as the biggest strategic threat for the state. If he thinks about it, he will be continuing planning for us about in this way. But the issue is not Netanyahu. On the same day when he said that, none of the Israeli communities or parties went out to the street to tell him, sir, there is something wrong. This is racism. How can you talk about 20% of the population in this way? Nobody went on. Nobody said anything about it. And in Israel at that time there was a news channel. It's in the first main channel. It's a news for the clever people. It was called Mehayom Lemachar, from today to tomorrow. Okay, for a serious thing at 11 o'clock in the evening, an intellectual journalist makes interviews with serious, as if it is serious discussions. Okay, so this man at that time, Emmanuel Halperin, he brought two big politicians from the Israeli arena to discuss what Netanyahu has said. So he brought the extreme right. At that time, it was considered Lieberman. Nowadays, Lieberman is considered central in the Israeli politics. Okay, things has changed. But at that time, extreme right was considered Lieberman. Extreme left was Dr. Yossi Beilin. Okay, and the discussion was, what do you honored politicians think about what Minister Netanyahu has said, that the Arab population are big strategic. Of course, Lieberman came ready for the interview. He brought up a map from his pocket and they told him, yeah, I knew that much before Netanyahu and I have the solution. And they started drawing new lines and he would say we would annex this area to that area, continuing the transfer theory in a different way. What did Mr. Extreme Left, Dr. Yossi Beilin, say about that? Mr. Extreme Left said, I agree with Netanyahu and Lieberman on the problem. I disagree on the solution, which means that in the Zionist politics, from extreme left to extreme right, the Arab Palestinian minority are considered a problem. The discussion is the solution. Now, in my next few minutes, I would like to tell you a little bit about our solution. Second, I will try to explain why it's not working. And the third thing I would like to tell you, what do I think that people from outside Israel, Palestine, how can they help? In the second half of the 1990s, we established a new political party. It's called the Balad Party, Tajammu al-Watani al-Demokrati. At that time, we were reading the political arena in a way that equality is the essential thing, Professor Ghani. And as being people who build their beliefs on human rights, justice, and equality, we said that a Jewish democracy is an oxymoron. There is nothing like this. It can't work. A state, by definition, no matter what does it want to give more for the Jews, a state, by definition, if it is only part of the population, by definition, it can't bring equality between the citizens. No equality, no democracy. It's as simple as that. This simple talk, like in a normal democratic society, all parties will be talking like this, okay? There is nothing new, nothing genius to say that no equality, no democracy. Everybody agrees about this. But in the Israeli state, since then till now, we are considered the most extreme political party. Because we are fighting for equality. And we said, okay, if it's a Jewish state can never be a democracy, what is the solution? We said, as the indigenous people who were living in Palestine, we are ready to go for a historical compromise. We don't want to see this conflict going forever. We think it should end, and it should end with a historical compromise that will at least guarantee us our equality. And we came with a new idea, changing the Israeli state from a Jewish state to a state of all its citizens. Again, nothing new, nothing genius about it. Okay, making Israel a normal democracy. That's all. We call this democracy the state of all its citizens. And big parts from what Professor Jabarin has said in his talk, in his offered law, we had the same ideas. Okay? More or less, we had the same ideas that were presented also by Professor Jabarin a few minutes ago, that it should be the state of all its citizens, and the Palestinian minority should take their collective rights, they should be recognized as a national minority, etc., etc. We established this thing something like 25 years ago. We now have, maybe in the last elections, I think 2,000 Jews voted for our party. If it will continue in the same time, I think we will need a few million years and we will have majority in the political arena. It's not working. It's not working. Why is it not working? Okay, it looks totally normal, totally logical for any democratic human being anywhere in the world. When you explain the situation, you tell him some historical background and you tell him that this is the solution, it looks totally logical. Then again, why is it's not working? Mainly because of 1 million psychological aspects. I don't have all the time to explain. I would like to tell you a few things from this, why I think it's not working. mainly in the West, also including the Israelis, mainly because of Hollywood, we can imagine Jews only as victims of racism. The way we think about it, when we think about the Jewish community, okay, we tend to think about them only about victims of racism. By definition, we cannot imagine them being racist. But when we think about it now, after all the things that you heard, Israel is the most racist state all over. And those who built it are the Zionists. Zionism is an ugly racist project. And it made us all these catastrophes that we have been seeing all the last decades. Not just the new nationality law. Also the Nakba, before the Nakba and after the Nakba. It's a racist project in its essence. Okay? And it's led by Jews. And in this time, they are racist. It's hard to imagine them like that. I know all the psychological things. But in this case, this is a racist project led by racist people. We should say that. People should know that. People should understand that the fact that people were victims of racism in part of history does not make them not victimizers all across history. Okay? This is one important thing. Another very important thing, in the case of the Palestinians inside Israel, we are facing a very strong majority. One that has one of the biggest, most powerful armies all over the world. But psychologically, this majority thinks and acts like a minority. They totally destroy Gaza, but in the same second, they feel victims of Gaza. On the same second. And it's seriously like this. It's not that they are faking it. It's not that they are acting, they don't believe it. This is the way the psychology works there. It's a very strongful majority which has been destroying our people in the last century, but they are totally convinced that they are the victims. This is another very important thing. And the last thing I want to tell you is that human societies have never been great, not just Zionism. This time, this racist project is giving them the ability to enjoy the whole cake. Any other historical compromise which is being represented with the state of all its citizens, 2 states, 100 states, 1 state, anything, okay, means that they should share the cake. Any other solution is asking them to share the cake. Human societies never were fast in sharing their cakes, unless they were paying a price for that. Nobody will share his cake unless he is enforced to do so. In this current situation, we don't have enough power to make them, the Palestinians, their main victims. We don't have alone the power to do that. And this is with this thing I want to conclude. What do I expect from people who are from outside Palestine? This is the last thing I want to tell you. I think that the only hope, for me as a political activist in Palestine, the most serious political hope that I'm seeing now is the BDS. The only thing which is giving hope for a non-violent solution. By the way, people should ask and should be very thankful to the BDS. Okay? Because this is the only... The BDS movement is the only non-violent solution which is giving a hope for the activists on the ground that something might happen in the future. Maybe not in the near future. Okay? But something is changing. Something is changing in the public opinion in important states. Something is giving meaning and essence to the Palestinian struggle. Something also gives hope for the people who are doing things on the land, that part of the people do care. Part of the people do ask. Part of the people cares a little bit about what's happening in this racist entity. And I think it is something which it has been developing quite fast. This is why a lot of states and a lot of lobbies were trying to fight it. So I think that continuing your work, if you are part of the BDS movement, is a great work. It gives us hope. I think it gives also a lot of hope for a lot of activists who are trying to do a change. I think that democracy and human rights is something good for everyone. I don't deal with the state of all its citizens as a solution which is good to my people. I think that democracy, human rights, justice, and equality are good for everyone. This is why we take our project very seriously. And I hope that a day will come and we will be able to talk about more practical things in the state of all its citizens. Thank you again.